patterns. We see them on the radar. We hear them on the radio. They have planes even flying above us. So everything we do is out in the open. We, even when we set sail, send a press release to the Israeli Minister of Defense, to the Israeli Navy, telling them, here we come. Because we're not trying to sneak in. That's not the point. When I hear the spokespeople, as they've called me and my colleagues, provocateurs, as if this is, something slander against us, I say, absolutely, that's exactly what we are. We are trying to provoke a change of policy. After all, this is still an occupation. This is still a people who are being oppressed solely because of their identity. The International Committee of the Red Cross, after years of saying nothing about the blockade and the siege, on June 15th, 2 weeks after our ships were attacked, came out with a finding, a legal finding, saying that the Israeli blockade and siege of Gaza is illegal according to international humanitarian law. Of course, the Red Cross is the possessor of the Geneva Conventions. They hold the Geneva Conventions, and it's upon the Red Cross's responsibility to interpret and to decide in which cases where international humanitarian law is being violated. So what they say is pretty much, we don't need to go to the International Criminal Court to get this decided. When the ICRC makes this kind of finding, it's legit. It's respected by the entire international community, including Israel. There is no debate. The reason they found that the blockade and the siege were illegal is because it amounts to collective punishment on all Palestinians in Gaza. And so the siege, the blockade, is punishment, is an oppression simply because of the identity of the people who are there as Palestinians. And that is something that I personally feel, and I think all of my colleagues, and it's clear, millions and millions of people around the world are unwilling to tolerate any longer. What has been really interesting for me is to see what has emerged in the wake of the flotilla, not just from our own direct actions. I think what the flotilla did, besides the direct repercussions of countries coming out and challenging the logic of the siege and the policy, to Israel changing its stance, all of these things, those are direct results that we can take credit for to an extent. But I think what's more interesting is the kind of political space that has now opened up as a result. In the immediate week or 10 days before the flotilla, as we were drumming up a lot of media attention, and as the idea of, especially in Europe and the Middle East, the word about the flotilla was getting out, stories were being filed, the two largest Italian supermarket chains came out and announced that they were not going to be carrying any more Israeli products. And the reason why was because, this has to do with boycott, but the reason was they said they can't tell the difference between a settlement product and a non-settlement product because of the way Israel packages things. In Europe, it's against European trade law to carry products made in Israeli settlements in European stores. But Israel doesn't package its goods to distinguish between what is a settlement product and what is not a settlement. Now, there's been a campaign in Italy for a long time to get these two supermarkets to take this action. But when did they choose to make the announcement? Just before the flotilla left, when there was already a large amount of attention on this. I don't think it was a coincidence. In the immediate aftermath of the flotilla, we had cancellations of concerts by Elvis Costello, by the Pixies, by the Gorillaz, and not only this time people were announcing that they were canceling their concerts, as other artists had done previously, like Carlos Santana. Santana announced he was canceling his concert due to a scheduling conflict. This time, Elvis Costello announced he was canceling his concert to join the cultural boycott, to take a stand, as did the Pixies, as did the Gorillaz, as did others. This is an important opening of political space. About a month after the flotilla, the Norwegian State Pension Fund announced that it was divesting its funds from two Israeli companies that build settlements in the West Bank. Africa, Israel, and Donna Cerebris. Again, this is a campaign that's been going on for a long time, but the timing of the announcement, I think, is not coincidental. And so, the political space that we've opened up for action, for civilian action, for citizen action around the world, to take a stand and to step up, I think is beyond our wildest dreams of what we thought we could achieve. But now that we see what can be achieved, we have to elevate our expectations to the next time. And so, with the support of so far the thousands of Americans, we're going to get a boat from the United States that will sail as part of the flotilla. We will get a boat from Canada that will sail as part of the flotilla. Hopefully we will have, we've gotten plenty of members of parliament from European countries. Hopefully we'll have a congressman from the United States or an MP from Canada. I don't hold my breath on that, but it's possible, right? It's more possible today than I ever would have thought it would have been last March, or even right after Operation Cast Lead. We have, in a sense, changed the world, but not enough, and nowhere near what's needed in Gaza, and certainly nowhere what's needed by the Palestinians who've suffered. The story, I don't know, many of you may have heard the story of the Samouni family in Gaza. The Samouni family was a family of about more than 20 people whose home was intentionally targeted by the Israeli military. After the tank unit in the area was told that there was a family in this one building, they then later targeted it. If that wasn't enough, after it was hit, calls came in to get medical attention, and ambulances were denied access for days. Children sat there with their parents dead, starving. Since Operation Cast Lead, the Samouni kids, they've received all kinds of attention, and people, of course, are helping them. But their home still remains completely destroyed. They cannot return to anything close to, not that they'll ever have a normal life, but anything resembling some sense of normalcy by being able to live in their own home. All that's needed for that, at this point, is reconstruction material to be allowed into Gaza, to help these kids start to heal, just a little bit. This is why we have to keep up this work. This is why we have to work for the end of the policy completely. It's with your help, it's with help with people, average people. All of us who do this, none of us are, I say this all the time, none of us are special, really. We just think that we can make a difference in the way that the world works through our action, and if we work together. And as I mentioned before, with the early Free Gaza ships, of how they were, it was beautiful bringing these people together from around the world. When those ships set sail for Gaza at the beginning of the flotilla, it had to be one of the most inspiring moments of my life, was to see hundreds of people from around the world who otherwise probably have nothing to do with one another. From members of parliament, religious figures. One of the Turks who was killed on the ship was a national Taekwondo champion, to grandmothers, to college students who felt that this was an important thing to do, coming together and sailing together with a cacophony of languages, cultures, and everybody joining together in this mission. Palestinians, from my experience in talking to them, in some sense they're almost overwhelmed by this kind of outpouring of solidarity. And if we think about it, it's kind of unique that we don't really find this in too many other places. Yes, people rallied and came together for Haiti after the earthquake. Yes, people came together and rallied for New Orleans and Louisiana after Katrina. But it's not the same. It's not this kind of international scope. And it's not knowing that what people are about to do, what they're about to confront, entails such risk. And yet, it's just average, normal people doing it. So, with that, I'll conclude and ask you to continue to think about if you're interested, supporting